Fellas, welcome back to the channel. I hope we are all well. In for a full day of eating today, as requested numerous times on the channel. So we're going to run it up in full. All the meals that I eat relative to the phase that I'm in at the moment, which is I say a mini diet. My food's still quite high, but basically food's lower than sort of normal at the moment for me. So I'm enjoying that. As I've said probably a few times on the channel before, I do prefer when my food is lower. Just feel a lot better. Mental clarity is higher. Just feel a little bit less inflamed. So yeah, that's the phase that I'm in at the moment. I'm going to be running this. Food's been quite low for the past sort of 7 weeks now, and I'm going to keep it low for another 2 or 3, and then we'll head back up the scale just gradually to put on a little bit more tissue, because there's some areas of the rig that I'm still looking to build out, namely the neck, the traps, the forearms, the calves. You can never have big enough arms, can you? Let's be real. But that's about it. Not much tissue to add. And then, yeah, we'll be done with the muscle accumulation. So yeah, that's what's up. But yeah, this first meal is an egg-based meal. In regards to how I navigate nutrition whilst I am here in Bali, I actually have a lady that cooks for me. She buys the food, she cooks it at her house, and then she brings the food round on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And she drops it off, and then I just serve it up. So I've got it on smash here. In terms of what this meal consists of, this is 7 egg whites, 3 whole eggs, 100 grams of jasmine rice, about 50 grams of mushrooms, and then also, oh yeah, feta cheese. Forgot the feta cheese. I have about 15 grams of feta cheese. And then in addition to this, oh yeah, chicken, that was it. 75 grams of chicken. And then I have some watermelon as well. In terms of the macronutrient breakdown of this meal, we are looking at, so it's about 800 calories, protein 60, carbohydrates 80, and then fat 20. So it's quite a protein dense meal, but I'm a protein guy. I like to have protein quite high. I'll run through the total macros as we go through the rest of the video, but yeah, I like to have quite a lot of protein in the mix. I think that's the old bodybuilder in me. Not that I ever was a bodybuilder, but yeah. First meal going down. So I'm gonna sink this, and then I'm gonna go train. I've got legs today, which is a beast of a session. I'm gonna hit that at the gym. And then rest of the meals we'll run through after the session. I think I might see a client this evening, but we'll see. If I don't, then I'll just go for food solo. But regardless, I'll bring you along, fellas. So stay tuned and we'll run it up. Right fellas, in for legs. I'm going to show you my pre and intra workout stack. I forgot to run that up with the first meal. So pre-workout at the moment, I'm having a pump formula, which is this one by Raw Nutrition. It's a sick panel, to be fair. So that goes in bareback. Now, in addition to the pump formula, I also do this, which is Vitago, which is a carbohydrate powder. I do this alongside EAAs. The reason as to why I use Vitago as an intra-workout carbohydrate powder is because it has something called a high molecular weight, which basically just means it empties the stomach super quickly. If you were to compare having Vitago to like a banana, coupled with the fact that it is high molecular in weight and doesn't have any fiber, is just a much more effective carbohydrate strategy to deploy when you are pinging them in intra-workout, because it just means there's no digestive burden, so to speak. Big fan of intra-workout nutrition, especially for guys that train hard. I'll often program Highly Branch, cyclic dextrin, or Vitargo as the carbohydrate powder, and then EAAs as well. So I do 10 grams of this, and yeah, 50 of that. And I'll sync this within the sort of first 15 minutes of my session. And the reason as to why I do that is because I used to sit an intra-workout for say like 30 to 40 minutes, but you would never do that when you're eating a meal. Like, you wouldn't eat a meal for 30 to 40 minutes. So I kind of came to the realization that it didn't make sense to sip on an intra-workout for ages as well. So I'll bang this in, like I said, in the first sort of 15, 20 minutes, 15 minutes after I've done my first exercise. So the carbohydrates are in system, ready to be utilized during the session. And what's key, absolutely key to note, is with this being in the mix, that first meal of the day is consumed 90 minutes before this workout, which is super important, because if I'm syncing this intra-workout shake, say like 45, 60 minutes after eating my first meal, I'm gonna then compound this intra-workout formula on top of that meal that hasn't fully digested. It's actually been about 2 hours, which is good. I prefer to have my first meal far away from a leg session, just so there's no issues from a digestive perspective, with obviously legs being a big muscle group. So if you are going to deploy intra-workout nutrition, make sure that that first meal is nicely separated from the consumption of it, because like I said, if not, you're going to compound and it's going to cause issues when you do train. So that's what's up. Anyway, I'm not going to film much of the workout, just because obviously this is a full day of eating, so I'm going to get some Instagram content instead. This is the struggle when it comes to content production, because you've obviously got to get the landscape for the YouTube, but the portrait for the Instagram. So we'll prioritize the Insta today, because like I said, this is full day of eating as opposed to training. So anyway, let's rock and roll. Right fellas, post-workout, which was a good one today. Not a massive fan of training in that gym. It's a great little gym, like the equipment's sick, but just vibes aren't there. But anyway, the job got done, which is the main thing. So post-workout now is the rice flour meal You boys that watch my shit know what goes down now. One thing I didn't show you this morning was my vitamin and mineral supplementation. So I have a bit of a unique approach to this. So this is the multi that I use, which is the Thorn Basic Nutrients 2 per day, and then magnesium, which I'm a huge fan of. I typically do, I would say on average, about 800 milligrams of magnesium a day, which is it's quite a lot, but obviously context is key when it comes to supplementation. Now when it comes to this multivitamin, this I use 4 times per week, and I only do half a serving when I use it. And the reason as to why I do that is because I also do oysters, which you boys know who watch my shit, and also beef organs as well, specifically liver, sometimes heart, but mostly liver. So the point I make is I try and get most of my micros from the oysters and the beef liver, and basically just use the multi as a top up, so to speak. Not a massive fan of using a multi to get most of your micronutrients, because multis are obviously man-made, and they are dosed in a way that is obviously not nature derived, and subsequently that isn't optimal, so to speak, from a health perspective, because it's sort of an artificial influx of micronutrients. So it's better to try and get your micros from whole foods such as the organs and the oysters, so that it basically allows for greater food synergy. So the benefits that you can extract from that consumption is superior to this. However, because I do carry a decent amount of muscle tissue, as you boys that watch my shit will potentially as well, when you are in a situation like this, you gun professional pursuit, you're a pretty stressed individual because you're busy with that, you've got responsibilities and so on. I've personally found from a coaching and anecdotal experience that beef organs and oysters alone, in the amount that I consume them, which is sort of like 3 times a week, doesn't quite suffice to cover needs. And how I derived that, or should I say came to that conclusion, was that I was running into symptoms when just trying to get my micros from those whole foods, such as predominantly a bashed sex drive. And I kind of came to the conclusion that it was due to a lack of zinc. And a couple of other nutrients as well that you can get from this. So since using this as a top-up, I felt that it kind of fills the gaps nicely. And I don't really ever run into that anymore, unless I'm absolutely off my tits from a stress perspective, which doesn't happen often. So yeah, basically just a bit of a hybrid approach to nutrition. Anyway, the actual meal itself though, it is 45 grams of whey, 90 grams of rice flour, 75 frozen blueberries, 20 honey, and then also 10 grams of nut butter. But yeah, I'm gonna eat this meal, and then I've got a consult to do, which for those of you that don't know, so basically predominantly I do online coaching, but I also do some consulting as well, relative to health optimization specifically. So I've got a consult to take, which is why I have my ribbed t-shirt on, which is one of the pieces I made, so I look presentable on the call. So I'll eat this, take the consult, and then basically we'll run up meal 3 shortly after, because I'm behind schedule because of just fanning around with the content and that. So yeah boys, I will catch you very soon. Okay, meal 3. So this is a steak-based meal. No carbs at this meal, just because meal 4 is the meal of the day where I might have some leeway. So basically I just keep meal 3 no carb in case that does need to involve, which it will today. So just a steak, this is a strip loin today, and have that with some mushrooms, and a little bit of coleslaw with some Nando's garlic sauce. So yeah, that's what's up. I'll eat this meal, and then yeah, I'm gonna head to the tailor's, pick up the Henley top that they've readjusted. I mentioned in the previous vlog, so I had a Henley tee made. I feel like I've got the shape on Smash, but it was too short, so they had to make it again, but then they made it too wide. So I'm going back today to pick it up, and hopefully it will be on Smash in terms of width, but also length as well. So picked that up, also had a polo adjusted as well. What I'm a big fan of is tailoring your clothes, fellas. As I always harp on about, more so on my Instagram than I do on my coaching page, it isn't good enough in this generation to just be in shape. You also need to dress well as well. And a key tip when it comes to fashion, in my opinion, is to tailor your shit. Because the chances of you buying a clothing item that fits you perfectly are just so it's just not likely at all. And to get shit tailored, you know, it's so cheap. Obviously I'm in Bali, so it's even cheaper, but even if you're in, you know, the Western world and shit, it's really not that expensive. So it's definitely something that I personally like to do. So yeah, go pick those bits up, and then meal 4 we will eat out. So I'll put some B-roll on the screen of what this meal looks like when it's finished, and then we'll nip to the tailor's.
Hey. Next to rock like Mick Foley, it's Nick Joby, kill him softly, play that shit slowly.
Right fellas, meal 4. We got 12 oysters going down, some cod, some mixed vegetables. I was meant to have some carbohydrates at this meal, but the carbs on the menu is like pretty much chips only, which I don't really want any chips. So I will put more carbs in at the next meal. We did just go to the tailor shop, but I left the memory card in my Mac at the gaff, so I wasn't able to show you that. So I'll show you the pieces that I picked up later on when I have my final meal. I've just brought myself in for a massage as well at 9:30, so in 2 hours time, with my man. So basically this guy that I get a massage off like probably twice a week is going to come over. So patting that'll keep me out of mischief, which is very good for me, because you boys that live in Bali know full well when you are flirting around on your bike on a Saturday night, it is awfully tempting to start getting involved with the craziness that can go down on this island on a Saturday night. So we're keeping it tame. But anyway, 12 oysters, cod, time to sink it, and then I will head back to the gaff, final meal, run up the massage, and then early night. So that's what's up, fellas. Right fellas, last meal going down. I'm absolutely shagged, I'm not gonna lie. Training legs and vlogging is a tough ass combination. But anyway, last meal, this is 75 grams of oats with a scoop and a half of whey. And then I am pounding some carbs at this meal as well. Popping some of these bad boys in, which are like rice cakes. And then also 2 bananas as well, to make up for the lack of carbs that I should have had at that 4th meal. And also, this is the top that I collected. So, you boys that watch the vlogs, you'd have seen me wear this before, but this is the Henley I had made. Long sleeve, pretty clean from a sort of shape perspective, but just far too short. So I had the tailor remake it, but having remade it, it's still too wide. I don't know if you can kind of pick that up on the camera, but yeah, it needs to be taken in substantially at the torso. That's what I find in regards to my own shape, because obviously, you know, when you train and that, your torso is pretty slim, but because you then have like sort of stature at the delt, it's just a bit of a mismatch. And this is why I said earlier, you kind of almost have to tailor your clothes when you do train, to make sure that the fit of the clothes that you're sporting actually complement the rig. Because what's the point in building it if you're not going to complement it with what you wear, you know? Just my perspective anyway. But anyway, sink this meal. Total calories for the day are as follows: 3,400, protein is 255, carbs 410, and then fat at 80. So yeah, that's where my food is at on a training day at the moment. So as I said, I'll run this phase for a few more weeks in terms of like just keeping food low. I'll probably pull food down a little bit more, and then I will titrate back up to ascend to build just a little bit more tissue, nothing crazy. So yeah, fellas, it's a pleasure as always. Massage guy will be here in probably about 30 minutes, so sink this and then have that, then hit the sack, keeping locked in. So I will catch you boys in a couple weeks time when we run up the next vlog. So yeah, fellas, take care of yourselves.